Yes, it is. Because, you had to sign in and do your new,
Yes.
I did that, so does it change this? Okay.
All right, good evening, everybody. My name is Lori Cobb, and I'm going to call our meeting, the August 12th board meeting of the Madison County Board of Education to order. Mr. Rutherford, would you read our vision statement,
Yes.
please?
Madison County Schools, in partnership with the community, strives to equip educators and students with the skills to lead by example, develop and speak with a unique voice, and explore their academic curiosity to make a positive impact on our community and world.
All right, perfect. Thank you very much. And next, audience comments regarding agenda items. We have none. Okay. So next up on our agenda is our consent agenda. So here are the items to be considered in our consent agenda. The approval of the minutes of the July regular meeting and the July 29th special meeting. Approve the claims. Acknowledgement of the superintendent's personnel actions. Acknowledgement of the leaves of absence. Approval of 2 out-of-state field trips. This is the same trip for Madison Central FFA and Madison Southern FFA to Indianapolis on October 27th through the 30th. And then approval of our ARC chairpersons as presented. Do I have any questions? No questions? All right. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Rutherford. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, and a second by Mrs. Brock. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion carries. Thank you. And then next on our agenda will be our monthly reports. We have our instruction report. Is Ms. Carter here? Glenna Carter? Oh, there she is. Hello. Come on out, Ms. Carter.
Good evening.
Hello, how are you?
Thank you for having us. I'm Miss Carter, and I've brought some members of my team with me, and they will introduce themselves in a few moments. I just wanted to share with you some of the things that we've done to kick off our academic intervention team, the work that we've done with that. First, we have spent the whole month of July planning. We have as our mission to really address some of the unfinished learning from last year and the strong Tier 1 instruction that's needed for this year. What we've done so far is we have met with all of our principals, our instructional leaders. We've developed plans, delivery plans. Our coaches have been in the buildings. Sorry, a little bit out of breath. We've developed our system with clearly defined goals and delivery plans. All of our team at this point are in place. We are very, very active in the school. So far, it's going great. We've had lots of successes, so I brought them to share some of those.
Watch your step there.
Oh, thank you. I am Angela Gabbard. Thank you for letting me speak. I'm so glad to have this opportunity to serve as a district coach. Like Ms. Carter said, over the summer we've been engaged in lots of study and reading and learning as professionals, so I've enjoyed that. But just in the last few days and in the last weeks, I have been meeting with building interventionists at my schools. And through that, I have been able to talk to them about what improvement cycles look like and how we use those cycles to really impact student learning, no matter where the students are. One of the things I've been able to do is work with Dr. Amy Smith as a co-presenter for literacy practices through all of elementary, not just primary, so that's been very exciting. And I've been working with building interventionists in particular in supporting them to use data and learn how that data should drive our instruction and maybe things that we are doing that are so positive and how we can improve things that need adjustments. One of the things that I was concerned about is not being able to see the first day of school and watch the excitement, but I've gotten to experience that with teachers and building interventionists and see their excitement. So that's been very exciting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Leslie Lilly. Thank you so much for allowing us to speak this evening. Very similar to what Angela said, we've had the opportunity in the last 4 days to get in the school buildings and meet with our academic interventionists and build the capacity of our schools through those interventionists. And the most exciting thing that's happening, they have stepped into those leadership roles. They're sharing information with their school buildings, and teachers are reaching out to them for their support just in day 4 of getting going. So I think that is incredibly exciting about what is to come for the students of Madison County, because our teachers are ready to provide a fantastic learning environment, and I can't tell you how exciting that is. And just on a personal note, about 3 years ago, I came with a group of Kirksville teachers and got the opportunity to speak with you guys about the value of having a coach in our building through our MDC work, and how wonderful it was as a teacher to have that support and have that resource. And so to be standing here in this position is really kind of wonderful. So thank you for that.
And I'll just echo a lot of what they've already said. Our teachers that we've been working with are so excited to get another year started. I walked into a school building on day one, and one tracked me down within the first 30 minutes and was like, hey, do you have time to come talk to me right now? I was like, well, sure, let's do this. So they're excited to get back, to recharge our systems and to make sure that we're focusing on student learning and make sure everything is going in the direction we need it to for the future. So, yeah, it's already a blast, having so much fun getting started.
That's great. So are you guys assigned to certain schools, or do you just have certain subject matters that you're working with those teachers, or how are you guys aligned?
So we build capacity with the building interventionists, and we are assigned to 4 schools. So we have 4. Jared Weinbarger is one of our counterparts. So each of us have 4 schools that we're helping to work at.
I'm so pleased to hear, well, I'm thrilled to have you all. And thank you for helping our teachers, and it's so nice to hear the enthusiasm. But I'm very data driven, and data is just data unless you do something with it. So to know that you all are tailoring instruction based on that data makes me very happy. So thank you. I'm excited to hear from you all after a few months to see how things are going.
Well, we love data too.
Well, unless you use it, it's useless.
Right.
So that's exciting.
Do you all mind sharing an experience or something for our parents that are watching, and for us, obviously, something that you've experienced in the last couple of days with the teacher that you have helped with to help people better understand this?
Well, today was fantastic. I started my day at Silver Creek, and I got to go into the first grade team planning, and they were working on unit development with language arts. They had done quite a bit with MDC work, so they were pretty well established on math. But they were trying to transfer their learning from MDC to their language arts units, and they had attended the training with Dr. Smith on Monday, and I saw such a paradigm shift about how they thought about how they had done things in the past and how they could improve those. And I got to see their building interventionist, Miss Anglin, really lead them in their thinking, and it was just great. It was fantastic to watch.
That's awesome. Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Well, thank you all very much. We're excited for what you are doing for us.
Thank you for having us. We're excited just to support the schools, to support student learning, to try to help with the unfinished learning from last year. We put together a great team, but we're able to do that with your support. So we just appreciate being able to do the work this year.
Thank you all very much.
Have a great
Thank
year.
you all.
Thank you all. All right. All right. So next on our agenda is Mr. Ben. Are you here? We have our technology report with Ben Burnett.
My apologies. I was a little slow coming up here today.
Oh, you're fine.
All right. Well, good evening. Thank you all for having me tonight. Tonight we're going to talk about data breach and security updates. And so that sounds like the most fun thing we've ever heard of, right? But I promise I'll try to be as short as possible. We'll get us through this. And so, just to begin, 702 KAR 1170 says, annual public school districts shall review and consider, in light of the needs of reasonable security, the most recent best practice guidance, including the Data Security and Breach Notification Best Practice Guide. And basically, we'll review that once a year. And so that's what we're doing tonight. We're just going to go through, I'm going to hit all the laws and all that kind of stuff first, and then we'll hit what we're doing, how we accomplish data security in the best way possible for our school district, and that'll be it for me. And so what is a data breach? A data breach is the unauthorized acquisition, distribution, disclosure, destruction, manipulation, or release of personal information that could result in the likelihood of harm to an individual. And so we've all seen those things on the news, right? Those the insurance companies that are breached, the recent pipeline that was the seizing of data. All of those things count as data breaches. And so the question for us is always not just has our data been breached, but will it be used for personal harm, right? Now, the question becomes then, what is personal information? Personal information, it's a combination of things, actually. It's not just an individual's name. It's not just one piece of data or another. It's a combination of first and last name, I'm sorry. Personal mark or unique biometric or genetic print. That's a kind of a new one I hadn't thought about, but if any of you all use your thumbprint to unlock your phone, that can be part of a data breach as well. But it's any of those things in sync with a social security number, taxpayer identification number, driver's license number, on and on. It's just a combination of things that help someone identify who you are, because there are many Ben Burnett's out there, scarily enough, but what they need is they need that name plus something else in order to know who I actually am. And so what do we do if we experience a breach? Well, first of all, once it is detected, we have the duty to investigate to see if that breach is a breach that is defined by the policy. And so there could be something where a teacher accidentally sends an email to somebody else, somebody they shouldn't have sent it to. That person has access to personally identifiable information, but that's not technically a breach. You have to look at what the law actually says. And so there are several laws that are kind of in accordance with that. Those things should be attached to your meeting notes for tonight, so I won't go over any of that. But what do we do if we experience a breach? Well, first of all, if a breach is confirmed, the district shall notify within 72 hours a select group of people. We have the Attorney General's Office, the Auditor of Public Accounts, the Secretary of Finance and Administration, the Kentucky State Police Commissioner, and the Commissioner of the Department of Kentucky Education. And so we notify those people within 72 hours that, hey, we think there's been a breach here. But then we have another duty to go back and investigate further. And so that second investigation, the whole purpose of it is to determine if there was actually a harm to an individual. If it's something where we think that some information was released, say a teacher releases lots of records to the public by accident through some means or another, those things could be out there. But if no one knows it exists, if it can be taken back in a reasonable amount of time, there may not be a reason to believe that harm has taken place. And so the next step is to do an investigation to see what has been released, to see if harm has taken place, and if we determine that harm has taken place, then we have 48 hours to notify those same people, plus the Commissioner of the Department of Libraries and Archives. Once we do that, within 35 days of providing those notices, the district shall notify all individuals impacted by the security breach. Depending on the number of people to be contacted, notification can be on-site and in person, that's what I'm trying to say. It can be through acceptable means laid out through the law, just depends. And if the number of individuals exceeds 1,000 people, then we also have to notify credit reporting agencies. And so that is all of the law about data breaches. The real question becomes, what are we doing about it? We can talk about what we have to do if there is a data breach or not, but what do we actually do to secure our data? And so the very first thing that has to be done is we have to identify the things that we keep on file. You know, the school district is a unique place because we have health data, we have pay data for teachers, we have all kinds of things. And so the question becomes, what do we store, and then where do we store it? Now, a lot of our data is actually stored with some third-party individuals with, Munis, Infinite Campus, those kinds of things. And so we have some contracts in place with those people to keep that data secure. And so we kind of go from there, right? The next step is to provide awareness training to our staff that have access to that personal information. Another thing that we do is we provide physical security for all of that data and for the means at which that data is stored. And so one of the things that you'll see in a later slide is we have a data center. It's a fancy server room. It's independently cooled. It's got all these nice fancy things in it. But we keep that server closet locked behind 2 sets of locked doors. 1 set of locked doors is great. 2 sets is even better, right? And so we keep that locked. with special keys to try to keep as many people out of that as possible. We provide software security for digital records. And so as we go to the next slide, that's where we talk about our data center. We talk about hard copy records and how they're behind 2 sets of locked doors. We talk about how our data center is independently climate controlled, and we have a backup solution in place. So not only do we want to secure our data, but we want to keep it, keep the integrity of that data as perfect as we can. So that's why we keep backups and things like that. We also restrict admin access. Our teachers don't all have administrative access to their computers, and that means they can't install software a lot of times, and things like that. The reason why we do that is so that we can mitigate some of the things like the pipeline, right? The pipeline was ransomware. The more people that can install software, the more likely we are to have a ransomware attack that can spread. And so we restrict those admin rights, not because we don't trust our teachers, but because of best practices and the fact that we believe that that will help us should an accident occur and something get installed. We do software updates, and so our Windows workstations and servers automatically install security patches. We update our programs as often as we are notified that those programs need updated, and we run antivirus softwares and things like that. Jeannie, yeah, there we go. The next thing we do, administrators, teachers, and students are given minimum rights to access network shares. And so we do store data on our own network shares that we host locally. We restrict the ability to access a lot of those things. We have teachers who have strong passwords. And actually, if you've gotten the multi-factor authentication emails from me lately, we've been enabling multi-factor authentication in order to further restrict that and keep my login as me, right? The more I know, even though I may be the only one that knows my password, if someone were to crack that, now I have something that I can stop that person from logging in as me should they know my password. And so the last thing on there, once a student or staff member leaves our district, we try not to leave their account open for longer than a very short period of time, just long enough for them to get their information they need. And then we want to disable those stale accounts so no one can host anything on our domain that we don't want, things like that. And so the law requires us to acknowledge those practices that we do in an annual meeting. And so we've reviewed the procedures and policies that we have in place. Are there any questions for me?
Do the students' account use two-factor authorization as well?
They do not as of right now.
It's
a good question.
I understand that. And y'all use Active Directory to set up security?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Actually, we are part of one of the largest Active Directory forests in the world.
I can only imagine.
Yeah, the whole state of Kentucky is its own, it's called a forest. It's its own entity, an Active Directory. So, yeah, we are one small part of a great big forest.
Anybody else have any questions? Okay, all right.
All right. Well, thank you all very much.
We appreciate it. Up next, we have Mr. Tony Thomas with our construction report.
Good evening, everyone.
How are you?
We'll begin the PowerPoint presentation with the Ignite Academies. And as soon as I have some, I know y'all working on logos and fonts and things like that, and I'll start including that in my report as well. But this particularly is the one in Berea, just a shot from a little bit far away. You can see the concrete walls and some plumbing pipe coming out of the ground and block walls going up in the distance there. And here's a little closer look at the big concrete castle, as we refer to it at Richmond, where you can see, of course, it's a storm shelter, and all that will be covered with a much more aesthetically pleasing material. And here's an inside shot again. That will eventually be a basketball court with basketball goals and bleachers and serving line in the back there. Here you can see they're laying down to start some concrete in that area. Most of the concrete is down now, and a good shot of the concrete of the storm shelter. Here's the corridor. You can see the windows on either side that would be into the classrooms that are between the corridor and the lab, kind of high up, allowing natural light through there. And then from the classroom, if you walk into the classroom, you can see how you can see into the lab area with the windows which were requested, and a door accessing from either side. And I think the trucks will fit. This is the diesel lab, and those are huge 14 by 14 doors. So excited to see how this develops as well. That's one of the labs that we did provide, quite a few pieces of equipment in as well. And here's a picture of the mechanical room. You can just see a lot of the geothermal lines, electrical lines, things of that nature that have already been installed underground coming up into the electrical, mechanical room. Here's just some more foundations. This is facing the front of the building. You can see the kind of the footings for the piers that will eventually be there. Wow. There we go. And just standing in the lab, that's about where the nurses, I'm sorry, health science would be, looking down through the labs there. So that's it for the Ignite Academy in Berea. If there's any questions about the Ignite Academy in Berea.
I think they're moving along great.
Yes.
It seems that they are.
There's been some heavy rain this month, but it dries up pretty quick in this hot weather. So they've almost been able to work every day at the Berea site. At Richmond, they've had more rain and they struggled a little bit, but they still, the progress is really good.
Well, and I just, since we're talking about these Ignite Academies, I just want to remind people what they are. These are extensions of our high schools. I actually view these as miniature high schools. We are going to have 300 to 400 kids out of each high school when these are open. So I think it's important for people to know, remind people what these are, that this is for our high school students. And they're going to be half-day programs, so all of those students will be out of those high schools, and then that will free up that space in those high schools for where some of those classes are currently located. So, and we're moving along great with them.
Yes, yes.
Which, we're just all very excited to get these up and going. So.
Well said.
Sorry.
And as you all directed us, and I know Dr. Gillen did a lot of work on it too, with the additional, the classrooms that we were showing pictures of are classrooms that are versatile enough to either be a classroom associated with the lab that it's right next to, or associated with some other type of curriculum. It could be math, it could
Yes, there will be
sociology,
math, English, science.
That's right.
Core classes
the entire
will
curriculum
be
could be
taught here.
and that
so.
will really take pressure off the capacity at the high schools
Exactly.
to move those kids there. So a little more elbow room at the high schools while getting good new facilities and lots of curricular options as well.
Exactly.
No, thank you, Lori, for explaining that, because I think there's a lot of confusion
I think
while
there's
we're not
some
building a new
confusion.
high school, so, thank you, well said.
Yes. So at Richmond, I'll start with another picture that's, in the direction of the bypass, which we talked about being able to have that vision. And again, there's a lot of dirt piled up still at the bottom there, so we'll even be able to see a little bit more of the tower there. This is once you're on the site, looking back at the entry there, and you can see the walls, masonry walls going up there as well. This is down towards the 4 Mile Road end from that corner. Steel going up, huge steel. This is over the labs, and similar to the diesel shop at Berea, here in Richmond, there's an auto tech shop as well, and you can see, I think the cars will fit through those doors as well.
I think so.
Yes, let's hope so. They're 14 by 14, so, but that means you all just have that much more versatility in the end. You could pull diesel trucks in there if you wanted to. Here's a shot of the front entry with the piece overhanging. That'll be the colorful canopy in the end. Just another shot of that, kind of. And there's not going to be, there's piers there, but other than that, there's just going to be a lot of glass there.
This is the front entrance, correct?
Yeah, that's the front entrance. The entry is actually right where you see that piece sticking out to the right is where you would enter under the canopy there. But that's mostly glass, so where the columns are will be wrapped in brick, but there's a lot of natural light coming into that lobby area. Here's the storage building, which seems kind of mundane, but a lot of people are really happy about this, including the contractors right now. They're storing things in there and keeping it dry. They've already got the roof on there, and there's an inside shot of it. The inside's just open. There's doors and overhead doors, but it's going to be up to Madison County to divide it how they see fit and what works best with the labs. So right now it's about a 120-foot long building that could be divided up however is needed. Here's another shot of the storm shelter. You can see they're starting to put the wood trim up there. They're putting the roofing on. So good progress, good progress. Here's another shot of the corridor down there. Through there you can see how you've got lots of height. And the ceiling's going to be high above those windows in the corridor, so good, wide, high ceiling corridor. And there'll eventually be the signage with, marking what lab it is or what classroom it is. Here's inside of a classroom. Of course, one of the walls is not built there, but again, you can see out on the left side, there's a door to the corridor with the higher windows into the corridor. And then if you're standing in there, you can see the windows on the right where you can have vision out into the labs. And the steel, again, so glad to see the steel go up. Things go really quick after that. They put the steel together quick, and they put the roof deck on, and gets enclosed really quickly. And here's just kind of a neat shot I took through one of the doors looking out to where that's the front wall facing Toyota. And that's it for the Ignite Academy of Richmond. Any questions on the Richmond Academy? Well, as you know, Madison County's doing things to keep the facilities in shape, so we've also got Clark Moore's going now. I think at the last report I just showed you, they just got started. Well, now they've really moved along, and it surprised me how much they've been able to do in a month. But here now they're right out in front of Clark Moore's, and this is where they're going to install the new parking and the new drive, help the parent pick up and things of that nature. Installing storm drainage. They ran into more rock than they thought, so that's one of the things that's slowed them down a little bit there. It's hard rock in Madison County too. I'm sure the neighbors have loved all the banging that's been going on, but that's all. It's in the bid. It doesn't cost you any more. But it has slowed them down a little bit, and there you can see their rock excavator just struggling to get through there. But they're doing their best to try to get that road and a little extra parking in before school starts Wednesday. In fact, I think Mr. Cash is out there helping them right now. If we go inside, this is where, if you remember, there were stairs and folding partition there in the cafeteria area. That's gone. There'll be a wall there. And this is another shot of the cafeteria. Really, they've come in and done a lot of the demolition. Now it's just a matter of them getting materials on site to start installing. I mean, they're doing some electrical and wiring. It's hard to see progress on that, but things like the ceiling tile and the other type of materials to renovate this area, they're waiting on them now. If you go back to the very back wing, this was the first phase that we're working in, which was the very last addition on the Clark Moore's. You can see they've taken up the floor tile. This used to be the tech lab. There used to be walls and low walls and computer stations and things like that. And really, their curriculum has just changed on that so much in the past few years that this is where everyone just decided to turn these into classrooms. So now you're going to have additional. Well, it's just one big room. Now you're going to have three classrooms and a resource room. If you step out back, this is where one of the older, more dilapidated trailers was, and that's where the athletic building's going. They have already got footings in with rebar and stem walls. It's amazing how quickly they're going. And this is that shot I was telling you about that I'll keep taking it from the same perspective up towards the school. Again, this would be the entry to the locker rooms right there. So you can see again the footings and the stem walls and the rebar in place for them to start up with the block now at the locker room and concession area. So, and boom, we're done. So, we wish. So, Clark Moore's. Any questions on Clark Moore's?
I know there was, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I know there were certain steps that we were taking to get things accomplished before Wednesday. So how are we on that timeline?
For the most part, it was just that, the only thing that we were requiring them, well, I'm sorry, let me say this. Having some barricades put in place to keep staff and students divided from the construction areas, that has been done. There's fencing, they've blocked off the parking. There's barricades that have been built inside the building so that no one can go past into a construction area. So the only other thing that we asked them to try to do as quickly as they could, and hopefully be done by next Wednesday, is that front parking lot area. Now, there's still a lot of parking, but if they can get it done and give staff another place to park or visitors, and a longer loop, so that, of course, that's one of the reasons we're building it, so that the parent pickup has more. Right. We're hoping they can, get that done by Wednesday. But if not, it's no different than what they've been doing for
Right.
years right now, and, so.
If they don't get it done by Wednesday, what steps are we taking to inform our
It's just like
parents
it
and-
was, and that's a good question, really, if people are listening to this. If that parking lot is not completed out front, it's just like it was last year in terms of.
Right.
Now, I say that, I don't want to speak for the principal. I don't know if he's going to switch anything up or not, but.
Right.
Except for where the teachers parked in the back, which is blocked off now, that shouldn't be a problem, though, because there's, when you pull up to Clark Moore's, there's usually a lot of extra spaces out in front, so the teachers will just have to park around front now. But the bus and parent pickup will pretty much remain as is. Dr. Gillum, do you know anything different than that? Yeah. Yeah. In fact, our parking lot doesn't really change that. All it does is it kind of does we'll call it a bow tie, like they do on cables when they give you a little space where you can kind of wind up and get more cars off the road. It'll be pretty much the same direction as it's always been, just a little more length. So if it's not done, I'm sure there'll be cones there, and parents will do exactly what they did for last year.
This may be more a question for Dr. Gillen, but there's obviously some disruption on the inside.
Yes.
Is Mr. Sexton, is he okay with how things are to this point?
Yes, and I think that probably answers your question a little better, because we were hoping to get to certain points. The big thing is we wanted to move along with our cafeteria renovation and get it as far along as we could.
Right.
We knew it wouldn't be complete when we started school back, but as much work as we could get done in there during the summer before students in it, because the plan there, since they finished up last year eating in classrooms and so forth, they said they would rather go ahead and get started on that cafeteria and just continue that process of either eating in classrooms or hallways or stepping out into letting students step outside and eat, setting up some picnic tables and so forth. So that's what we're doing, and then we're going to get the cafeteria ready just as quickly as we can. And that was one of the slides in there, that's been pretty much, it's been gutted, and the classroom's been taken out, because there's a classroom, if you remember, you walked into that cafeteria, classroom took up a big chunk of that cafeteria. It's been taken out, the stage has been taken out, all of the equipment back in there has been removed. We've gotten the door up for the, or the area up for the freezer, and so it's moving along quickly there, yes, yeah.
Because of the construction, were our sixth graders able to go inside and tour and like a back-to-school orientation?
Yes, they were, and that's where we really, we had some parking issues that night, because we were working on the parking lot,
Right.
and not just that little area, but there were some other things there. So it was, parking was really tight. Of course, parking is tight at Clark Moore's regardless. So, and that's one of the reasons we're adding parking spaces. But yeah, it's they're moving along well.
Good. I just know it's so important
Yeah.
to get them,
Oh yes.
especially those incoming
Yeah.
sixth graders.
And for parents to know what they're supposed to be
Right,
doing.
right.
Well,
One
and
of
that's a good
those-
question, and maybe I should have focused on that a little bit more. The front of the building and the lobby and the gym and the office area and all those areas are just like they were last year. The construction has started outside and in that very back wing. So everybody can just pretty much continue as if it were last year. Now, when we get into later phases, there'll be some transition before school's out next year, that some areas will be blocked off. But that's in the plans and specs also, to be very clear and to partition. And Mr. Sexton will have time to, educate parents and kids about what's going on. And then next summer, a lot's going to happen next summer to finish it all up and get them back in school.
Anybody else have anything? Mr. Thomas? Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So next up, we have Mr. Woods with our monthly financial reports.
Good evening.
Hello.
Rearrange some of this real quick. All right. As of July 31st, the district ended with a reconciled balance of $75,212,892.36. We've been talking about this for a while. You can see where we're up compared to prior year. We have construction money. We've got 3 projects going and funds for all 3 sitting there. So We will be up for a little while until we spend those down and complete projects. Of the reconciled balance, the district has $5,740,990.65 still in investments. And, you know, those range are still, the range of the interest rates are still just sadly low. Not much we can do about that. You also, in your packet, you had the balance sheet and the revenue and expense report for July 31st. I'll take any questions you might have.
Anybody have any questions?
We've all had plenty of time to look over it and call you.
All right, so if we don't have any questions, I need a motion to approve the monthly financial reports as presented. All right, we have a motion by Mrs. Coyle. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
And a second by Mrs. Brock. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Thank you. And then next up is just our annual finance report. Just
Yes. So you do have, in your packet, you had a full copy of the balance sheet and the revenue and expense report for this. I always like to take a different little look at this because each month you all see the financials. You've already seen the June 30th where it was right at the end of June 30th. This is where we kind of fell after we've made some adjustments. We've sent into KDE our unaudited numbers. So I like to take a little different look at this, and we'll go through this PowerPoint, and hopefully I can operate this. If not, I think Mrs. Caldwell has me taken care of here. All right. Perfect. So the first slide here is our general fund revenue for this last year. What you'll notice there is the local and the state, how close together they're getting. It is slightly skewed this year. The state took some of our SEEK dollars in this last year, moved them out of state. They gave us federal dollars in replacement of that, and we had to move them out and record them as a different project. So it caused that gap to shorten there. But I did run the numbers just so we could keep it comparable to what we've done in the past years. If we put that $2 million, it was $2 million that they did that with. If we do that and put that back in, our local percentage becomes 46%, our state 51%. As compared to the prior year, our local percentage was 43% and 54% state. As you can see, as we grow, that starts to change. The burden becomes more on the local. That's the way the SEEK formula works. For any kind of a growing county, it turns more into less state dollars as you grow. So I've been watching this over the past few years. When I started tracking this, when I came on, we were somewhere about 58% state. So to keep it all comparable, we're at 51. So that's been a 7% swing over the past 6 years. Expenses. This is one that I'm very proud of, and I am sure you all are. That first bar there on this, that's instruction. That's where we spend our dollars. By far, greatly outweighs any other expenditure that we have in our district. We are spending money on kids. So, I think that's a really, really great number. I don't know if many districts that is the trend that theirs is that high. I'm impressed by this one. Again, this one was skewed a little bit too because some of our expenditures were in the instruction area that we had to move with those SEEK dollars that got moved to federal monies. I did rerun those numbers, and the year before, fiscal year 20, it was 58.72%. And with this, if we run it, we'd be looking at 59.622. So overall, we're still keeping a really great high number there. The next slide, based on the year end, oops, I jumped one too many. There we go. So a few years ago, they started talking about administrative percentages. It's no longer required we track this. I keep tracking it because I feel it's very important. I find a sense of pride in the way our districts run. We are very, very efficient in what we do. You can see the past 4 years when this started, you can see where we're at. It has slightly ticked up this year. Again, when you move some of those dollars out and move them to federal, they're no longer counted in this percentage. We had instruction items that were moved over to federal dollars, so it does skew this and make it look a little higher than it has been. But overall, you can see the state average for the last totals we had for the state for fiscal year 20 was 18.76 was the state average for an admin percentage. We're still at, according to this, 12.5. We did have one of the big areas of reduced sub costs this last year that fall in instruction. So when you don't have a lot of subs, that cost drops. It does affect this admin percentage because all of the admin percentage is based, it's a percentage of instruction. Our admin costs are fixed, so that's another reason that when you have some reductions in instruction, it affects this admin percentage greatly. As of the fiscal year 20 numbers that I was able to pull, our district is still in the top 4 in the state. I do like to go a little deeper to that and find the next closest district to our size. They're 18th. So the next closest district of our size in admin percentage is 18th. We stay in the top 4. We've consistently been in the top 4. We're very, very efficient according to any kind of industry standards. Salary and fringe. This is slightly up, but we also had, when you take salary and fringe as a percentage of our general fund budget, and you have some reduced expenditures on other items because of days we weren't in, like utilities that go down because you're not having to heat or cool the buildings as much, it causes this percentage, again, due to the pandemic, it's up, looks a little higher than normal. We consistently run in the 70s. We had some extraordinary items this year that pushed that number up. So, positive impacts on the balance. Community growth. We continue to be one of the few districts in the state of Kentucky that continues to grow. We're growing students. We're also growing property-wise. We're having new businesses open. You know, we've had lots of reassessment this last year due to property sales. It seems like houses and things like that don't stay on the market very long. So we have had community growth. Medicaid revenues have stayed strong and steady over the past few years. Our USF reimbursements continue to come in and stay steady. We've had some Kisbet refunds in this last year, so that's been positive. Management of our financial resources during the pandemic. We took care of our schools, we took care of our needs, but we did it responsibly. We made sure everybody had everything they needed, and we stayed responsible with our funds. Reduced expenditures for substitutes, and then stimulus funds that were offset expenditures during this last year, because we could have seen some extraordinary expenditures that we were not planning for. But we did receive some stimulus funds that helped us offset a few of those extraordinary things. On the horizon. So when we do budgets every year, we talk about the perpetual 12%. We got a one-year stay during the pandemic, but we're back at it. classified retirement continues to increase by 12% every year according to statute, and it will. That puts more money into the retirement system and helps them shore up the pot there. Continuation of Medicaid reimbursements, will they continue? We hope they do. We've been really steady with our claims, and we do really well making sure that we get reimbursed for anything that we do. So hopefully those stay around. We already talked about that gap where it keeps shortening. So any reductions in state and federal funding and how it affects the gap with our local. Anytime you have reductions in those, that means the local has to cover more. District growth causing reductions in Tier 1 and state SEEK funding. So we have to be mindful of that. As we grow, that's the way the formula works. It works to equalize everybody out, so our Tier 1 funding eventually will hit a point where we start losing Tier 1 funding because of our growth. And then additional staffing needs as we continue to grow. As we open new tech centers, other things, we will have needs for more people. That's the summary. Like I said, you all have the full set of financials. I like to do this from a summary standpoint so you can get some of the highlights. What questions do you have?
I don't really have a question more than just a reminder to people. You know, you mentioned the local effort and the reduction in SEEK. So I think it's important to remind people that as we get more money in property tax, because people are selling their homes for more money, we get less money from the state. So I think a lot of people don't realize that's how that works. So the more we get locally, the less the state gives us. So I think it's important for people to know that. And then just to, it was $2 million less in SEEK funding we received this year.
Yes.
That they reduced out, and then they replaced it with federal dollars, correct?
Yes. It was $2.236 million.
Yeah.
So they actually took that out of our formula. They did, every district had that, and they used some of their federal funding that they received through the stimulus and had us move those expenditures over to those funds.
Which concerns me for how that sets us up for the next year.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. What other questions do we have? Okay, thank you.
Thank
Just
you.
report, so we don't have any motion or anything on that. All right, and then next up, are you doing the motor vehicle tax? Okay.
Next, we need to set our motor vehicle tax. This one's pretty easy. There's no change in it. By law, we have not been able to change this rate since 1983. But by law, we have to bring it up every single year.
Okay, so I'll just reiterate, no change in the tax rate for motor vehicles. It's the same rate we've had since 1983. Any questions? All right. Do we have a motion to approve the 2022 fiscal year motor vehicle tax rate as presented?
So moved.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Rutherford. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, and a second by Mrs. Burford. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion carries. Thank you very much, Mr. Woods.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, so we're going to move right along real quick. Next on our agenda is to create and ratify a strength and conditioning coach for our Southern baseball team. They have asked that we create and ratify this position, and it will be paid for out of their school funds. So do we have any questions? All right. So I need a motion to create and ratify a strength and conditioning coach position at Madison Southern High School that will be paid for by their district activity funds.
So moved.
All right, we have a motion by Mrs. Brock. Do we have a second?
Second.
And a second by Mrs. Coyle. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. And then next on the agenda is to create and ratify 2 athletic site managers. These are positions at Madison Central High School, $1,500 each, and they will be paid also through the school funds. Any questions?
Dr. Young, exactly what will these positions be doing?
Okay, yeah, so, anytime we have an athletic event, there's a lot of things that go into that. Obviously, you're doing the ticketing and take care of the finances there. You're working with your field officials, you've got crowd control. So there's a lot of stuff going on. And particularly right now, as over the years, I served as athletic director for a few years, it's a busy job. But now, in addition to that, when you have, we may have a night when we have a soccer game, a football game, and a volleyball game, all going on at the same time, and it's just impossible for people to be in the same place, three places at once. So what these individuals do is it's just some additional, basically it's just an additional hand. We designate them as site managers. So the Kentucky High School Athletic Association requires that we have a site manager that is not the coach that be designated there. So this is the individual who reports to the officials and says, I am the person in charge here. I'm the administrator in charge, effectively, of this event. So that's what that is. And, it's really it's a very small piece there for what we get out of those folks. And it gives us, to make sure we're covered in all of our areas.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? All right, so I need a motion to create and ratify 2 athletic site manager positions at Madison Central at $1,500 stipend each that will be paid through their district activity funds.
I'll make the motion.
All right, we have a motion by Mrs. Brock and a second by Mrs. Burford. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. All
Yep,
right.
and I will also mention that piece about district activity funds. So these are funded by the ticket sales and so forth that are generated through the schools. So that covers that, yeah.
And next we have to create and ratify 2 assistant football coach positions at Madison Central. These are $1,000 each positions, and it will also be paid through the district activity funds. Do we have any questions on that piece? All right. So I need a motion to create and ratify 2 assistant football coach positions at Madison Central High School at $1,000 stipend each, paid for through their district activity funds. All right, we have a motion by Mrs. Coyle. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
And a second by Mr. Rutherford. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion carries. And then next we have a teacher at Kit Carson. Kit Carson needs an additional teacher, and they will be using their Title I funds to pay for this position. Any questions? All right. So I need a motion to create and ratify a teacher position at Kit Carson Elementary.
So moved.
All right, we have a motion by Mrs. Brock. Do we have a second?
Second.
And a second by Mrs. Burford. All those in favor? Aye. All right, motion carries. And we also need a paraeducator position at MKA. They will also use their Title I funds. Any questions? I'm assuming, Doctor, these are because of enrollment.
Well, they're somewhat, because when they actually enroll students and add additional students, that's met through the allocation formula. So we would add staff based off the allocation formula. These are circumstances where typically what they do, these budgets are really restricted, so we non-renew people at the end of the year if they're paid for through these special funds, if they're not sure that the funds are going to come back next year. And then the schools look at their needs and make determinations. Do we need this individual to work in this area and so forth? And then they have the ability to use those Title I funds in that. So just in the case of these 2 or 3 that we've mentioned here, in the case of an additional teacher at Kit Carson, I think that's a grade level issue where they wanted some, their numbers on the allocation in a particular grade level were a little high, so they wanted to use their funds that are provided through the federal Title I program to add an additional faculty member and lower those class sizes in that room. That's one of the functions of that Title I piece. With MKA, I think it's a paraeducator that they want to be able to roam throughout the school, because every classroom at MKA has a teacher and a paraeducator. So this is an additional paraeducator to do small group work with kids. Because even though there's teacher and paraeducator, you're talking about 23, 24 kindergartners. It's a lot of, it still takes a lot of hands. So all of our schools receive, a pretty significant, all of our K-8 schools receive a pretty significant group of funds through the Title I. And as well, that speaks to the way we do our budgeting with Title I. We try to allocate most all of those funds that we receive through Title I straight out to our schools across the district, as opposed to spending those at the district level and telling them what they get. We let them make those choices, and that's why you see things like this. Yeah. And I will also point out, while I'm on this, when we read the pieces before those, when we said district activity funds, again, those are school funds. Those are not district funds. They're school funds that are just kept at the district level. They have to house them at the district level because of some Red Book rules. But those are the football coaches and the site managers. Those were paid for by Madison Central Funds, and that's a decision made by Madison Central Site-Based Council.
All right. Any other questions? All right, so can we have a motion to create and ratify a para-educator position at Madison Kindergarten Academy?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Rutherford and a second by Mrs. Burford. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. All right, next up is the approval of 4 emergency teacher certifications. Dr. Gillum, you want to talk to us about that?
Be glad to. We hear of the teacher shortage. We're starting to feel it in Madison County. Traditionally, we have not felt it that much because we have EKU that provides an ample supply of teachers to us, good quality candidates, and we're able to get those in our student teaching. But as we have seen, and other schools, not just EKU, but EKU is sitting right here in our county, so that's a big benefit to us. But as we see things, it's a combination of multiple factors. Fewer students graduated due to the pandemics. Fewer students graduated last year with teaching certifications from all universities, pretty much everywhere, but especially across our state. Additionally, we have seen, because of this, because of some of the federal funds that have come in with some of the intervention efforts, the same way Madison County added intervention folks to try to close the gaps, that's created some additional need for staff. Those additional needs for those interventionists, those are filled by classroom teachers, which then creates voids in the classroom. Madison County's doing that. Every county across the state and nation is doing that. So we have had a need for additional teachers. As you start to fill those, fewer candidates coming out, those filling up, we run into the teacher shortage. If we're feeling here in Madison County, certainly some of the rural counties, they've been feeling this type of thing for years. So what you see here are 4 teachers, 3 of them middle school science. Just so you'll know, we did a survey across the state from superintendents, what areas of certification are you seeing need. I think every single district said middle school science. Middle school science is an area that there's just, the pool's not very deep in. And so as well, then we're also, so 3 of the 4 are are middle school science, and then we also have a health PE at the high school level. All of the 4 candidates here, a district has the ability to request emergency certification when there are no suitable certified candidates available. And with that, you can do that as long as the individual has a bachelor's degree and it's in a related area, and they're only certified for 1 year. It's emergency status, it's 1 year only, and that's it. All of the individuals we have, I think two of the 4 have teaching certification. It's just not in the specific area that we're talking about. And then the other 2 have a bachelor's degree in the content area for which they are seeking emergency certification. So still, good folks here, but they just don't meet all of those parameters for certification.
Do you have any questions? So I think it's important for our families to know these are qualified people. We're not just people
Absolutely.
in the classroom
Yes.
that don't know anything about teaching.
Yes.
These are qualified people that will be filling these
Absolutely,
roles.
yes. And all of them will be supported by a mentor teacher and professional development and so forth. So, yeah, we feel we have the supports in place, yes. We're just in a position where typically.
I understand. Anyone else? Okay. So I need a motion to approve emergency certification for a science teacher at Clark Moore, a science teacher at Cottle, a science / social studies teacher at Foley, and 1 health and PE teacher at Madison Southern.
I'll make the motion.
All right, we have a motion by Mrs. Burford. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, and a second by Mrs. Brock. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion carries. All right, and next is our food service procurement document. This is basically a routine certification that we will abide by all the federal procurement processes. Mr. Anderson, do you have anything we need to know or you need to say? We're good?
You've done it perfectly.
Okay, all right. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Anderson? No? Okay, all right. So I need a motion to adopt the food service procurement document as presented.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Mrs. Brock and a second by Mr. Rutherford. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion carries. And then next is our intent to participate in the CEP program, which is our free breakfast and lunch for all of our students. We're just basically agreeing we will abide by their regulations to participate. Anything else on that?
No, this year will be our last year until we lock in again, and we'll lock in for 4 more years. So sometime during this year, we'll see where our number is, and we'll lock in and go another 4.
Okay, great. All right, good. Anybody have any questions? No? Okay. So could I get a motion to approve our intent to participate in the community eligibility provision program? All right, we have a motion by Mrs. Coyle. Do we have a second?
Second.
And a second by Mrs. Burford. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Anderson. And then next, we need to approve the purchase of Chromebooks for Kirksville Elementary.
Okay, yeah, this purchase is for the Chromebooks, and this specific PO is for Chromebooks at Kirksville. We provide the same level of district support to all of our schools regarding Chromebooks and devices. Through our KETS program, essentially we provide each school with $10,000 of KETS funding each year for them to be able to order and do what they want to with, provided that they would use their own school funds to match that purchase. Okay, so in other words, we'll pay for $10,000 in Chromebooks or laptops or whatever type of device you want, as long as you will use your school funds, your Title I funds to match it. And in this case, our schools take us up on that, obviously, to meet the needs. But in this particular case, Kirksville wanted to buy a few extra, which puts it over the limit for district approval. It has to go to the board. So the items we're buying here, we're buying with partially with district funds at the same level we provide every school. Kirksville's just putting in a little more school funds such that it kicked it over the threshold.
They're basically using their own money.
They are.
Okay.
What's the status of the Chromebooks? Are they coming in better now?
Yeah, I'm going to defer that question to Ben, but yes, Chromebooks have been arriving pretty steadily, yes.
Yes, so a lot of our suppliers, what they've been doing is they've been warehousing with the opportunity to purchase. So they'll warehouse them, we purchase them, and so as we purchase, what we're doing is we're looking at their stock, so they come in a lot faster than if we bought this exact Chromebook model every single time, and then we have to wait. So that's how it goes. So yes, as of right now, they're coming in.
Very good.
All right. Anybody else have any other questions? All right. So I need a motion to approve the purchase of Chromebooks for Kirksville Elementary.
So moved.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Rutherford. Do we have a second?
Second.
And a second by Mrs. Coyle. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. All right, so next on our agenda is to approve the purchase of a greenhouse container for Madison Southern High School. This is basically an app harvest container like what we have at Central. They've kind of done it a little bit differently than they did with Central, but they have basically donated $100,000 to Madison Southern, where they then require them to use that money to purchase the container for a purchase price of $94,920. And then those remaining $5,000 or so they will be able to use for supplies and setup of this container for the FFA program. So, anybody have any questions?
I think they already have the pad and everything poured next to Southern's greenhouse, so they're ready to
for it.
go.
Anybody have any questions? No?
All right. So could I get a motion to approve the purchase of a greenhouse container for Madison Southern High School that will be funded by the App Harvest Grant?
So move.
All right, we have a motion by Mrs. Burford. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
And a second by Mrs. Brock. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you. All right, next up is to renew cyber liability insurance. And I think we have David and his crew with him.
Back to this again. Thank you all. I've got Joe Davis, who is out of our Bowling Green office. He focuses on development and implementation of risk management and cyber liability products for us. He's actually an attorney and serves on several boards and does publications and stuff for magazines and speaks at conferences. But when we started our school program for cyber and started approaching our schools doing monoline, we worked directly with Joe because that's the area he works in and keeps up with. So I brought him along tonight. Well, he was gracious enough to come over with me tonight. I didn't bring him along, just in case there were any questions or anything. I'm not sure what information that you all were provided, but to kind of give you a brief overview, we approached 13 markets, including your renewal. 9 declinations. There were 3 indications, Travelers, CNF, and Sampo. And then Beasley gave a full proposal on the renewal. Travelers is actually a little less expensive. They initially declined. Not sure, it was class of business was initially what they said, and then all of a sudden on Tuesday, they provided a proposal and we got it over to look at it. Theirs is, we're calling theirs an indication because we didn't complete a full Travelers app for that to get the indication. They were going off another carrier's application, which is what a lot of them will do until you get the full application completed and get the attestation on having MFA and all those things done. So Travelers is a little bit less expensive. It's approximately $25,559, and then the renewal on Beasley is a little over $36,000. So I'm kind of open for questions on that. The marketplace for cyber, we've seen, well, I had 20 in my email that I've been aware of in the last 2 months that have left the market. As Joe and I were talking tonight, he named off another 5 or 6 that have left the market because cyber is becoming such a targeted area, and ransomware, what used to be a $20,000 payout that they would hold your stuff for, shut down your machines for, now they're going for millions. I think the average ransomware payout right now is about $675,000 when they access your system and do that. So that's what we have to propose. The biggest thing was the markets we went out to, the declinations, and then the indication from Travelers and the full renewal from Beasley. CNF, the indication was almost $50,000 and Sampo was $61,000, and their coverages were no better than what you have now.
Well, what did we pay last year?
A little over $12,000.
David, what did you say the Travelers was again?
Travelers is $29,559. With taxes, because they don't put the taxes and surcharge on there, and we were trying to get over as quickly as possible. And actually on that, we still have to do the app, I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
Which part? The amount? $29,559.02 is the calculation, with taxes, fees, and surcharge. On that, we still have to have an application completed, and it is based on the terms of the application is how it is completed. But we can get that settled before the 20th. So that's when your renewal is.
I think the Travelers is different than the quote that we got, Lori, because it didn't have, I'm assuming, the fees and all that.
Correct, that's correct.
Right, yeah. I was just looking at give me, what is your opinion? Because I know there's some differences here.
I'm gonna let Joe.
There are some differences. One of the main ones is that the Beasley policy is going to have coverage outside the limits, whereas your Travelers policy is going to be subject to the $1 million aggregate. That's really going to be the main difference. From an overall standpoint, you're going to see some of the Travelers' lines of coverages sub-limited down a little bit less than what Beasley would be. But, from an overall perspective, Beasley had
I didn't see anything
some.
that jumped out at me as far as the differences. That's my opinion.
Between the two companies?
Like I said, that would be the biggest one, would be the coverage outside the limits. Beasley's set up with the tower system instead of Travelers, which would be all subject to the aggregate. They're not including crypto jacking, but I don't know that that's something that we would necessarily need to worry about right now.
Can you
If
explain to us what that is?
Crypto jacking would be, basically somebody would be coming in and tagging along on your network to mine crypto. You could have some students that might be kind of tech savvy that would be trying to install some malware or some different things on your network to then use that energy to mine for crypto. It's a newer coverage that we've kind of seen that's out there. The main differences really come down to Beasley had some controls that they would like to see in place. Travelers is on the same realm with that. They just have not put those controls in for their quotes. We should expect those controls to be updated probably in the next 30 to 45 days. So when that happens, moving forward, it would be a similar type of situation from the controls standpoint. And those would be things like MFA that we talked about, or that they've talked about already, as well as endpoint response tools and air gapping of the network.
And if I read this correctly too, Beasley is a $50,000 deductible and
Correct.
Travelers is 10.
Mm-hmm.
And the other main difference that I noted is Beasley is non-admitted and Travelers is admitted, which basically means if Beasley goes bankrupt, they are not covered by the guarantee fund, whereas Travelers would be. So that's a
So
consideration.
what's your opinion, Lori? You're in the insurance business.
I would say Travelers.
I would agree with you. I think that until we can get the controls in place for this next year, just understanding that the Travelers policy, there are going to be some changes that go along with it at next year's renewal as well. And this is a changing landscape, so we're just going to need to keep up to date with the controls that the insurance carriers want to have put into place.
And, Ben does a fabulous job. I don't worry about the controls, honestly.
Well, it's not necessarily the controls from somebody's job perspective. It's just the controls that are in place from a carrier's perspective that they want to see in place to provide coverage.
Right. Okay. That would be my recommendation. Travelers.
Before you vote, the thing I wanted to point out again is we have to submit the application to them, and I'm sure we could have something in a day or two. So I can't say that this is a firm premium in that scenario because the application, I don't see any indications that anything would change because they've looked at the other carrier's application and they've received it and they went from a declination to a premium. But I just want to say that and be clear about it because if it does change, I don't want you all to be put in a position to where you end up having to call a special meeting if you decide to reverse course or something like that. Or your coverage expired,
When does our coverage
the
expire?
20th.
Dr. Gillen,
Okay.
you got any
Oh,
insight on
yes.
this?
Can we do a motion to accept the Travelers as presented? And then if it's not able to be upheld, we would default to the Beasley?
Yeah, I mean, you can do that, yes. Yes, we can make the motion would be just a little bit complicated. But
We all look to Jeannie.
I know, I'm looking
there
at
will be
you.
a motion to approve Travelers policy. I think that is presented
Right.
with, what do you say?
I was just going to say, if you do it at the rate as presented, if it came back $400 more, then
Yeah.
we're
Oh.
back to a
That
new
would
starting
be-
point. I was just, at fiscal, and I'm assuming the KRS rule is the same as would be in fiscal court, would be to make a motion to accept the traveler's policy contingent on favorable terms. If not favorable, back up to the Beasley policy.
Do we have to specify what our favorable terms are in that motion as guidelines?
We're all looking at Jeannie, she's like, I don't know.
I don't think there's a big difference between
There, I'm
the school
sure.
board and the,
think so.
I think
agree.
it's a matter of allowing the decision-making to fall to the superintendent and the board chair once it is voted on in that manner.
Well, we
But I'm not a school board attorney,
And
so.
that would be the default there.
Right.
Is to, if we're not absolutely confident on the travel piece, and there's some, there may be some changes there, but there's an issue where we might still want to go with them, then you could authorize the superintendent to.
switch to Beasley.
To make that decision.
Yes.
I'm perfectly comfortable. I sure wouldn't want a little verbiage and $200 difference.
Yeah.
Right, to stop that.
muck it all up. So I'm very comfortable with that.
So it would be,
Insurance.
authorize the superintendent to secure cyber liability coverage from the company's presentation.
Yep, okay. All right, so I need a motion to approve our cyber liability renewal. Back up. I need a motion to,
Authorize the superintendent.
authorize the superintendent to purchase cyber liability insurance from the companies presented.
Be appropriate, yes. Everything's been presented, open meeting, everything, all numbers are there. There are issues with that.
Do all board members have, what was the other companies with the,
Travelers.
have you all had that information?
Yes.
Because the motion is cyber liability from Beasley.
That's the recommended motion on the agenda. Yes, but no one
we
has
would have to
made
vote
that
it
motion.
down.
No one has made that motion. So,
Right. So do I need to
so
vote that down?
we can just strike it from the agenda.
Or vote it down.
Vote it
I
down?
think we have to vote it down, yeah.
Okay. Or die for lack of a second.
Okay, so we just
Yeah.
don't need a second.
We
All
don't
right.
even get a.
Don't need motion.
Don't even get a motion.
Ask for a
It's
motion.
still on the agenda.
I have to
She asked
ask
for a
for the
motion,
motion.
nobody motions it.
It's only
Okay.
recommended, it's not in motion.
But it's on the agenda.
I need a motion to approve the purchase, renewal of cyber liability insurance from Beasley in the amount of $36,135.04. Hearing no motion, it is dead.
There you go.
How's that? All right. So now I need a motion to authorize the superintendent to purchase cyber liability insurance after favorable terms from the companies that were presented by Roding Insurance.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Rutherford and a second by Mrs. Coyle. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Mr. Burnett and Mr. Neely have the application, so they've already begun working on it. We provided that to them yesterday, so they're working on it now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, and
Thank
thank
you,
you for
Mom.
coming to answer our questions.
I'm going to wait for Miss Jeannie because I think she's got to catch up here. Did you get that motion, Jeannie?
Are we okay?
Yes. And as noted there, that quote came in yesterday, so that's the, all of those, there was quite a delay in getting those in, so, getting all of the companies to respond.
All right, are you okay over there, Jeannie? Okay, all right. So next on our agenda is to adopt a resolution to support the CBE, the Council for Better Education. Do you want to talk about that, Dr. Gilman?
I would be glad to talk about that. Council for Better Education is basically a consortium of superintendents and districts across the state. It was founded in 1984 for the purpose of equitable funding for public schools. And that is the organization that was behind the initial CARA and Rose versus CBE way back in the day that changed that created our SEEK formula and changed our school funding. They pulled together 2 or 3 times since then just simply for the purpose of fighting legislation or other issues that might impact funding to public education. And so they're requesting that we pay an assessment for this year, that we join them in their effort to fight the tax credits that were provided in House Bill 563. And I will add that that particular piece of legislation was passed on razor-thin margin in both the House and the Senate. And there were several components to that bill. It was kind of combined. The only portion that this group is challenging is the tax credits that would go to private schools. That's the part that we feel is unconstitutional and can negatively impact funding for public schools. The other portions of that bill we are fine with. I will also say that our local representatives, particularly Deanna Frazier and Josh Bray in the House and Jared Carpenter in the Senate, all voted in opposition of this particular bill when it came through. Simply for that specific purpose, that the issue regarding the potential for private schools. So I would encourage the board to resolve to support this organization and agree with the assessment, which is 50 cents per student.
Do we have any questions for Dr. Gillum on this matter? Any questions? All right. So our motion is to well, actually, the proposed assessment for this is $5,254.71. It's a 50-cent per pupil charge is how they come up with those fees. So I need a motion to adopt the following resolution, that it is hereby resolved that the Madison County Board of Education authorizes Superintendent David Gillum to take all necessary steps to support the Council for Better Education in its legal challenge to the unconstitutionality of the tax credits in House Bill 563, including the payment of any appropriate dues or assessments related to the school district's membership in CBE or its support of the referenced legal challenge. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
All right, we have a motion by Mrs. Burford. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a second by Mrs. Brock. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No. All right, motion carries. All right, and then next on our agenda item is we need to reassemble our local planning committee. Do you need to say anything about that, or?
Well, no, the local planning committee is the group that helps us form our district facility plan. Yes.
So the local planning committee
Take
is
a look at that.
required by state regulation to be convened to come up with the district facility plan for our property. So I have a motion here to request permission from KDE to reassemble the local planning committee that developed our current district facility plan for the purpose of conducting an analysis of Waco Elementary renovation, site acquisition to enlarge the campus of Waco Elementary, and renovation of Bellevue Learning Center in consideration of a recent facility change and demographic patterns within Madison County, and to approve those committee members. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion by Mr. Rutherford, and do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, and a second by Mrs. Burford. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion carries. All right, next is our superintendent's report.
All right. Well, my report tonight, I guess, is probably going to be a little different, a little shorter, probably, because it has been a very busy month. And the main thing, though, that I want to share with you tonight is that I love and appreciate Madison County, our community, and I want to encourage everyone to focus on the things that unite us rather than the things that divide us. Please remember that our purpose is to provide for our students. And I ask that everyone works together for a great school year, in order to build a better Madison County. Our teachers have been working very hard. All of our school staff has been working very hard the last week and a half to get ready for our kids. And next Wednesday, our kids are going to show up. Those school buses are going to roll. And our kids are going to come into our buildings. We're going to feed them. We're going to teach them. And we're going to love them. And we're looking forward to a great school year. That's my superintendent report.
All right, thank you very much. So as the chairperson of this Board of Education, on behalf of everybody sitting at this table, I am going to read a statement by us regarding the COVID protocols and the mandates that were set forth by the governor and the Kentucky Board of Education. We maintain our position that it should be the parent's choice in determining if their child should wear a mask. Like school districts, families are different, and only parents, in consultation with their doctors, should be making decisions regarding their child's health. We are charged with offering the tools necessary for parents to make the choice that is best for their child. As a board, we are not in favor of the mask mandate handed down by the governor and the Kentucky Board of Education. We do not agree with the overreach and maintain that local control is in the best interest of our students. One size does not fit all with our 173 districts. We are elected officials, elected by the people of Madison County to serve our students and staff and do what we feel is in their best interest. The recent actions have removed our ability to fulfill our sworn duty of serving our students as we have been entrusted to do. Our focus is to provide the best educational opportunities for our close to 12,000 students. These are unprecedented times, uncharted and ever-changing. With or without a mask, virtual, in-person, homebound, or any other school services our students receive, we will do our best for each and every one. Knowing it is impossible to please everyone, we ask for patience, grace, and understanding as we navigate these challenging times. Do I have any other board comments? No? Okay. Then that concludes our meeting. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right. We have a motion by Mrs. Brock and a second by Mr. Rutherford. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. We are adjourned.